Hey, Max here from Abstract Automation. Today I'm going to show you how we can use Zoho Flow and ChatGPT to automatically clean address information in Zoho CRM. Now in this case, what we're trying to do is correct spelling mistakes and other inconsistencies with the state or the US state value on addresses. So we all know that there are a few states that are difficult to spell. Connecticut is one I can think of, maybe Massachusetts, probably a couple others. And also, sometimes it's hard to remember all of the state abbreviations because some of the state abbreviations are similar. So what this flow does is it takes the ID of the account from Zoho CRM, the account record that has the address, retrieves the address information that's currently on the record, pushes the city, state, and zip values to ChatGPT, which then returns back to us ChatGPT's best assessment as far as what the state abbreviation should be for that address. Now, I've had this flow running for several days now, and I've been throwing all kinds of addresses at it. And I have to tell you, it has not gotten it wrong a single time. It's very good. So let's just talk about what's the advantage of taking this approach using AI to something like this versus just creating a traditional workflow or maybe a Deluge custom function inside of Zoho CRM. The difference is that with traditional solutions, you would have to predefine the correct answers to all of the scenarios, right? So you'd have to feed it a table of maybe zip codes with the correct city and state information. You'd have to feed it a whole listing of possible misspellings for various states and what state abbreviations would be the correct outcome of those misspellings. And so it's really hard to predict and pre-provide instructions or exact definitions for all the possible mistakes on the inconsistent data entry. So the difference with AI providing a solution is you don't have to give it anything except for some basic instructions on what it should do, and it does the hard part for us and just returns back to us the answer. So I really want to focus on the ChatGPT portion of this flow because that's really the piece that's unique to this learning, whereas there's tons of resources out there on how to create generic, webhook flows and how to grab records from CRM and so forth. So what's happening here is we have a webhook which is sending to the flow just the ID of the account in Zoho CRM. All right, so we're collecting that workflow as form data. We have a workflow in CRM that's pushing that information. And then what we're doing is then going and fetching the account in Zoho CRM based on the account ID that webhook sends over to us. And what that does is that allows us to get the bits of information from the address, like the city, the state, and the zip. Now this comes the next part, which is we bring a OpenAI or ChatGPT process here or task here, and this is the part that's really important. So if we edit this task, when you work with ChatGPT inside of Zoho Flow, what you're essentially doing is telling it what ChatGPT model you would like to use, as well as providing what's called a prompt. Now, if you are not familiar with using AI and you don't know all of the lingo, a prompt is really just a set of instructions to give the AI. But what's important is the structure of your prompt and the clarity of your prompt. The better your prompt is, the more complete and specific your prompt is, the more consistent and accurate the information you'll get in a response from, in this case, ChatGPT. So the prompt that I'm using, I have in a notepad over here that I can pull over so that you can see it. I'm specifying in the prompt which model, and then I'm giving it a message as far as the content. You are an AI that validates and corrects US state abbreviations based on city, state, and zip input. If the location is outside the US, return an empty string. If the provided state is incorrect based on the city and zip combination, return the correct two-letter abbreviation. If the state is misspelled, return the correct abbreviation. Response must be in this format, okay? So I'm giving it these instructions, And then what we're doing here in the prompt is we have placeholders for the information that we're pushing from Zoho CRM. So we're going to replace, when the flow executes, we're going to replace these placeholders with the actual values from the address of the CRM account record. All right. Prompts are a super important thing. If you're new to ChatGPT, I strongly suggest that you start doing some research on prompts, and you can actually use ChatGPT to make the prompt for you, or have it refine the prompt to help you get it down to providing you what you're after. All right. So there's our prompt. Then what we have to do is we have to have a custom function that parses out the response from ChatGPT. This is probably the hardest part. This is the most technical part. When you use ChatGPT in this manner, it returns back to you a whole chunk of text, and all we really need is the little bit that tells us the state abbreviation. And so we have to create a custom function here in Zoho Flow that goes through that big chunk of response text and finds the answer that we're looking for, so that we can then use it in an update step here to write back to the CRM record address. All right, so why don't I just show you it actually working, just to see how it really works, and then we'll dive into some of the specifics of the setup. So here I have a test record in Zoho CRM, Fake Company Inc., and it's currently at this address here, 100 Broadway, New York, New York. So this is a correct address right now. We're going to play around and put some incorrect state values in here and watch it automatically fix itself. So I'm going to just click in here, and let's say we mistakenly put in that this is an address in New Jersey and not New York. So we put NJ in there. Now that just kicked off the Zoho Flow. It only takes a few seconds. If I refresh the screen, we should see the results already. And if we scroll down here, you can see it was corrected back to NY. Let's do a couple more sort of mistakes here. So let's say we say New York, and I left off the K. I forgot to type the K. So that's some bad data. Going to hit refresh again. Now if we scroll down, it's been fixed. All right, so we could use a few different other scenarios here. So I've got some addresses in my notepad on the other screen just so I can remember them. So let's try an address in Connecticut. Okay, so here is our Connecticut address. Let's say I just spell Connecticut completely wrong. I know that's really terrible, but let's say we just do it so bad. And there it is, it fixed it. It really does a great job. So here we have the log in Zoho Flow. This is going to allow us to see all of the input and output on each of the steps in our flow. Now, if we look at the ChatGPT input, which is our prompt, this might be hard to read, but you can see here that it pushed that bad address or that misspelling of the state information as input to ChatGPT. The response out of ChatGPT, like I mentioned earlier, is right here. So you see ChatGPT returns this big chunk. It's kind of a mess. And so what we really need here is just this bit right here. You see, it might be tough to read, but it says content, the state, and then in this case, CT for Connecticut. So that's what we're really after, or we can actually grab it from here as well. It shows up a little bit higher. And so this Deluge custom function does the work of getting that bit of information out of the response, and then we can use that later in the flow to update the account record again. All right, so why don't we take a look at that custom function. To get to your custom functions in Zoho Flow, we're going to go to the Logic tab over here, down to Custom Functions. To create a new custom function, you click the plus here. In this case, we already have the custom function created. And it's a pretty simple custom function. So it's taking that string of input with the state and the value. It's a key value pair type of bit of code, and it's getting the state value from it and returning that back to us. All right, and then we can use that as an input parameter when we go to update the account with the correct state value. So what we're doing is we're identifying the account to update by the ID that originally came from the webhook. And then if we scroll further down in our listing, we've got the state. We are providing the value of the output of our custom function there. So this is just a simple example of how you can use the power of AI and Zoho Flow to help you clean your CRM database. It's really not that hard to do. There are some technical bits here. If you have any questions or you would like examples of the custom function code or the prompt, go ahead and just make a comment down below in the notes and I'll reply with the information. Thank you.